Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Kraken Power Rankings. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Frugal Feynman's Fecal Furniture, DBA Poop Furniture. You may have heard of them. Now, I know what you're thinking. Furniture made out of feces? I must learn more. But sadly, the World Health Organization shut down our globally renowned human waste furniture manufacturing center. However, we've been working over the last decade tirelessly to bring the same shitty quality with supplies that meet the new woke mob safety standards. Now, today I've prepared a short demo of the quality you can expect from Frugal Feynman's Fecal Furniture. Now, just bear with me while I get everything set up, all right? So you can see over here, there's the box, and I'm going to get everything ready so I can give you the real demo, all right? Now, right here is a box I got from Frugal Feynman's Fecal Furniture. You can't even see my face. There we go. So you get a little bit of my face. You get a little bit of this box. Now, I'm telling you, I got this from Frugal Feynman's Fecal Furniture just the other day, and I have been so excited to show it to you guys. Now, it's a flat panel TV kit. You can see that on the box writing. However, with Frugal Feynman Fecal Furniture's patented technology, it's also a nice wobbly light stand. Look at that. Well, I said a light stand. It's a light stand and a nightstand. See? That falling over there, that's the quality you can expect. It's unrivaled. It's unrivaled. Crazy, you guys. You can get that. You can get that quality for 5 easy payments of $69 with $4.20 shipping and handling. It's a can't miss deal. Can't miss opportunity. So get your Frugal Feynman Fecal Furniture box today, and it comes in a variety of furniture sets. I promise you won't be disappointed. Now, that was our sponsor. We'd like to say thank you again to Frugal Feynman's Fecal Furniture for sponsoring our podcast today. But now we can go into what we're really here for, which is the power rankings. All right. So, what we have here is the Week 7 results. Our high score we have James White Babes. We have Nolan, who picked up. I think this is his first one. It might be his first one, but these two, he and Freaky, the Nolan Freaky duo from former ECI employees, right at the top again. But not too far behind, we have Morgan Ellie. So we have a lot of decent scores. Not the same booms that we had a couple weeks back. I think last week was kind of depressed, but is that 2 weeks in a row for free? No, Nolan just won. Yeah, this is the boom week, and then we had a little bit of a bust week. And this week is actually a little bit. They say we didn't have the same high score, but there was a lot of depressed scores in here. The averages look to be a bit higher, so I think overall is a better week for fantasy than the week before. But either way, there's some decent storylines in here. I'd say this is probably the closest matchup of the week, but there are some other somewhat close ones. I mean, mine and Elliott's came to a Monday night game, although the only way I would have won is if McCaffrey didn't play. But yeah, so a lot of cool stuff in here. So I think what I want to do first is I know there's been some talk about which teams to talk about more, I guess. So what I'm gonna do is a spinning wheel. Yeah, here we go. And I put everyone's name in here. I just tested it right before before recording this, just to make sure that this works. So I put everyone minus mine. I'm not gonna put mine in here, but we're gonna spin the wheel and we're gonna do a little bit of an in-depth analysis of that team before we get into the power rankings. So I'll do this each week, and I'll take out one of the names, the first name that comes up each time. So we're going to talk about Jake this time. All right. Now what I'll do is I'll hit remove. So he'll be out of here. And this week we're going to be talking about Jake's team. So let's jump right in here. We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive on Jake's team. We're going to go player by player. It's not going to be a real deep dive, such a cringe saying. But no, it's going to be, I'm just going to go through it a little bit further than I'd say the what I normally do. Even though I think I've gone through Jake's team a lot, but we'll see how this goes. I mean, it's not like I've tested it out or anything, but so recently this last week, Jake made a trade with Jenny. Seems to be the only person who will trade with him. Brock Purdy for Keontae Ingram. It was a pretty low stakes trade. Fields being out for a few games, and Keontae had that one game, so it made sense. She needed a running back. It made sense. Or I guess she needed a flex, but it was a low stakes trade. But Fields expects to be out for probably another 1 to 2 weeks. I want to say I could look in here, but yeah, he's doubtful for week 8. He'll see. He's looking at week 9. I'm not entirely sure that would happen either. My guess is going to be week 10. If they're calling him out so early this week, then they might just not want to risk the following week. But we'll see. I mean, we don't really know. In the meantime, we're going to look at Brock Purdy because Jake's more than in a win now mode than maybe before. Dropped a few weeks in a row. What's a 3-game losing streak, right? I know I have a 3-game losing streak. No, he has a 2-game losing streak. So let's get back over there. I'd be so Purdy. So Purdy had an underwhelming game last night. That's fine. Not a big deal. I'm a little bit concerned about Olave. There's definitely been some concerns. I've been reading a little bit more about Olave than I feel like I normally would for any player. But I'm not talking about like being arrested for the reckless drive. It's stupid, but it's not like a real issue. But there's been issues of him giving up on routes. There's been issues of him not participating in any sort of what's the word for it? I guess on the sidelines. You have Derek Carr, you have Michael Thomas, and you've been seeing you have Kamara over there who frequently are talking about the game, talking about plays. They're always seen on the sideline together, and Olave is nowhere to be seen. Olave is pouting by himself over in the corner. These are all like small. It's a small nitpicky thing, but the giving up on routes, the clear lack of chemistry with Derek Carr, and it appears to be a lack of interest. Again, this is just super deep into it. Doesn't really, this is just us on our armchairs, making these kinds of comments. So just small concerns, nothing that would ever take him out of your lineup, but it's just something to look at, something to note when you're evaluating the position in fantasy. I guess it's tough, but just something that keeps Olave just a little bit like, if he's not gelling with Derek Carr, then does his number of targets come down? Does anything happen? It's all speculative, but just something that I don't like when I'm looking at. I don't want that kind of receiver. I don't want that kind of news, I guess, on my receiver, who's supposed to be my wide receiver 1, who's a little bit been underperforming. But Addison, we can do the nice clean transition to Addison here, who has stepped up in Jefferson's absence. So obviously that first game, not this last week, but the week before, I think the offense was finding its footing. I don't remember if I said that on the last power rankings, but that was something I know I was thinking. I think I might have said it, but regardless, Addison had a phenomenal game, career best game. Granted, it's only 7 weeks into his career, but it's a fantastic game. It was like 30-something points. He had 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. Awesome, good stuff. That's exactly what Jake needs right now, because he has a whole bunch of wide receiver 2s, essentially. And needs someone to step up to be that wide receiver 1 to really bring the team into, not just, this is a playoff team, but it's not a championship team without that. So it just needs that stud receiver to step up. And if Addison keeps delivering, and if they even shut down Jefferson, then that's a very, very good possibility that Addison becomes that guy, which is really cool. Mike Evans does what Mike Evans always does. I don't remember I don't know what he's trending toward for yardage, but just produces every single week. I mean, I think he was taken out. This is when I was playing Jake. He got taken out like mid game. Other than that, the floor of 8 points, but that's on an inefficient 10 targets, which is fine. The targets being there is very important. So 10-8, 10 blank, not counting that, 10-8, really, really good stuff. So he's commanding targets. He's converting those targets for the most part. Again, this is a good wide receiving room, but just needs that stud receiver to be able to really bring them to the championship caliber type of team. That said, Eckler's been really disappointing when he's since he's come back. I mean, 9 points and 5.5 is not what you want to see. You could argue that game script was not in his favor, but that's never been a problem with Eckler due to just super high usage in the receiving game. Kelly had something like 7-8 carries or touches, something like that. Does it say here? I don't think so. Yeah, 7 carries for Kelly, so he might have even had some more touches. They could just be easing Eckler back in, but that seems kind of weird at this point, considering he held him out. They held him out for 3 games plus the bye. To ramp him up now is it's not like he's coming back from an ACL injury. It's not something that makes it doesn't seem like they're ramping him up, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I have not panic, but just slight concerns about his usage. Meanwhile, James Cook had an amazing game. That's a good solid 20 points. Efficient carries, right? That's about a little over 4 yards a carry. Another couple catches, good yardage. So, eclipsed 100 yards. They better not have used that word. I don't think they did. I like using that word. Eclipsed the 100-yard mark on total scrimmage, which is great. That's exactly what you need to see from your RB2. So that's a really good spot for him. Now, the newly added Jake Ferguson, that is just so painful because I love Fergie. I'm a huge Fergie believer. I'd rather have Fergie over my current tight end, but I needed to drop him for bye week. I needed to be able to start a team, and I would have left the spot blank if I had the choice. I would have just started Ferguson on bye if I had the choice, but unfortunately I did not. So I had to drop him, and Jake made a really good move picking him up before last night's game. So that's a solid move. But rostering 3 tight ends is kind of strange. I expect one of them to be dropped just as part of the waiver process this week. So then again, Jake does moves like that sometimes with 3 quarterbacks or 3 defenses, 3 tight ends. Seen it before, so it wouldn't be too surprising if he held on to them just for another week to see if anyone breaks out. But when you get down to the flex spot, right, and you see Rashee Rice, DK Metcalf, you have Madison on the bench, Hopkins on the bench. Again, it's a lot of wide receiver 2 type of stuff. DK is super consistent. He's not a wide receiver 1. He's a wide receiver 1, sorta. You could argue that he's always drafted before Lockett, but like I've read. I guess I've only read on Reddit kind of stuff, but Seahawks fans, I guess, view Tyler Lockett as their wide receiver 1 for the most part. There are obviously going to be differing opinions, but Lockett is their guy, and Metcalf is their number 2, and they're at least a lot of their opinions. And that's how I always saw it up until, was it this year maybe? I don't know. I think it was around this year I was like, maybe Metcalf is the number 1 guy, but I don't know. They're kind of just a 1A, 1B, or they're just a trio of the same type of fantasy output, or they're whatever it is. I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but the point is that DK Metcalf is another solid wide receiver 2. Hopkins is a good wide receiver 2. So you arguably have 5 wide receiver 2s. What even more, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Rashee Rice is a wide receiver 3, maybe wide receiver 4, somewhere in there. But you got good wide receiver 2 depth. But just again, that stud. If I'm Jake, I'm probably pushing. I'd be looking to maybe trade. You'd have to trade 2 of these guys, 1 or 2, probably 2 of these guys. You trade like a Mike Evans or DK Metcalf or DeAndre Hopkins. I would consider selling Jordan Addison, honestly. At right now, I think he's at max value, but no shot that's going to happen. So I'm guessing, an Evans, Metcalf, something like that, plus another solid talent like a Rashee Rice, maybe. It's tough because to make that jump to wide receiver 1, you need to be able to offer significant value above replacement. Rashee Rice value above replacement for most teams, not that great. I love Rashee. This is not me bashing on Rashee Rice. I really like Rashee Rice. But value above replacement right now isn't too great. So that's going to be tough to move him in a trade for a wide receiver 1. You almost have to give up two of these guys, like an Evans and a Metcalf, or an Evans and a Hopkins, or Hopkins and a Metcalf, something like that. Or you part with a James Cook or a Madison, or if you're feeling real spicy, you could try and sell Eckler 1-for-1 for a wide receiver. I don't think I would do that, but just something you could do. But again, overall, I think this is just a solid midfield team. Fields is sitting on the bench too. If he comes back and starts slinging 30-point games again, pretty soft schedule just by the green. But Detroit, that's kind of surprising. Detroit is giving up a lot of points to quarterbacks. They have a pretty good defense, but well, maybe not recently. But yeah, this is a tough first round of the playoffs, which is, I don't expect Jake to be on a bye, so that'll be a tough first round. And Purdy, you could have. I wouldn't be playing Purdy in the playoffs if I had to. I only would if I had to. I wouldn't do it if I had a choice. But overall, it's a solid midfield team that just needs, again, I think just like a crazy wide receiver 1. You could argue maybe even another running back if he trades like Cook and a wide receiver 2 for an RB1. That would make it a bit more formidable too. So, I expect Jake to make some moves to get his team back on the right track, and it should be a splash of a trade. But we'll see. So I think that's pretty much everything on here. I like Detroit as a defense. Like I said, I'm kind of surprised they got lit up by Baltimore like they did, but yeah, I thought they'd be a good season-long hold, but probably not. They're kind of just wasting space at this point, but who knows? We'll see. This week he's going up against Jenny, so I expect him to win this game. I don't think Jake would let himself lose to Jenny here. You have Brees will be back, right? And then Pickens. Oh man, Pickens looks good. It's been hard. When did Pickens get? Yeah, 6th round. Was Pickens a keeper? No. So 6th round, that's great value for Pickens. He's really stepped up this year. Only these couple subpar games, but over 100 yards 3 times already. He looks great. He's gliding. He's, again, the whole thing has been, does he get separation? And it's been like, oh, he doesn't get a separation. Oh, he's never gonna be da-da-da-da-da. Well, he's quick. He makes contested catches, and he's getting some yards after the catch, I think now. But I could be wrong. But I've seen a couple highlights, and I really liking what I'm seeing. Jenny's got a great team. Definitely stunk for her to have a Brees Hall with the bye last week. I think he's just he's a matchup changer, absolutely. And then Ingram putting up that dud, that zero touches is a. Yeah, she lost that trade with Jake, I guess. But it's not like Jake really won that much either. Purdy's points above replacement was pretty much nothing. He on the waivers, I think most quarterbacks averaged around like 16 or 17. So nobody won that trade. Nobody really won that trade. I'd say it's possible Jenny even won the trade if Arizona decides to play Ingram again, which they might not. I don't know. Just again, sort of like a nothing trade. But anyway, so I think now we just jump into power rankings. I know I went into Jenny's a little bit further than I expected to right now, but I think we're safe to go into power rankings. All right, we'll start at the bottom. Robert's still in the cellar. Sorry, Robert, you're still down here. But and things aren't going to change too much at the bottom, right? So we're going to have McDonald's still here. McDonald's. I actually want to do something really quick. I think I did this last week too, but you guys didn't see anything. Cool. All right, I just had to make a quick adjustment. So this bottom tier it's kind of tough, actually. Do I want to keep... Jay's almost in the basement like Robert, so I'm actually going to... I'm not going to put him in the basement because I think he's still a little bit better. Jay was really unfortunate in that he had Watson just get taken out of the game like immediately, but it's not like the rest of the team, you know, aside from Kelsey, did anything either. Granted, you have, you know, Higgins on bye. You know, there's still all the injuries. Deontay's back. I would have been putting in Deontay over either of these two guys. I know it looks like I'm being Captain Hindsight here, but I'm not. I 1,000 times out of 1,000, I'd be putting him in over Slayton, and over Odell Beckham. I would put him in over either of those guys. Not that that made a difference at the end of the day, but I still think Jay's pretty solidly in the bottom, number 11 for now. Yeah, it could change, but you know, just I guess when the injuries clear up. But there's really at 0-7, winning 7 games in a row, so winning basically all the way until playoffs, puts him at 500. And I am not sure if 500 is enough to make it into the playoffs. In a 12 team, I don't really know, honestly. I just don't see it because I expect 1, 2, 3. I expect these 3. I expect these 4 teams to make the playoffs. Jenny is a catastrophic injury away from not being able to make it. She just has 0 depth, but her starters are really, really good. So it's questionable playoffs. I don't expect to be making the playoffs. Freaky can make the playoffs, and Morganelli, and that's already 6. That's like already 6. And even like I said, Jake is playoff caliber, but he's on the outside looking in right now. So I think it's gonna be very competitive. I think these 3 teams are in obvious sell mode. There's just really no. I wouldn't be trying really hard, but I think at this point it's sort of a waiting game to get closest to the trade deadline, because no one's really made that first step in selling. You could argue that McGovern did when he sold Rachaad White for a 5th, but no big moves in the sellers market. So right now I'd say it is a seller's market. I think Jay could command a very high price for extremely high price for Kelsey. A high price, probably higher than most people would want to pay for Jacobs. But if no one else is selling and you just need that one piece, then you can get a premium for it. So it could be just a holding out type of game. Yeah, because McGovern hates selling. Robert doesn't really, doesn't sell easily. And then Jake's never gonna sell. I wouldn't if I was Jake either. These are teams that aren't really selling. So yeah, it's Jay's market right now, and we'll see what he does with it. But anyway, so he's at number 11. I'd say at number 10, because we're still in, I'd say in the same, we're almost out of this tier, honestly. Let's see here. Because I'm just trying to figure out how to color this. I might just go to that. I'm just going to do the shapes and colors and stuff like that, where I want to get... I wish I knew what I was doing. Why can't I find the... There it is. The solid color. Let's get this. I got to put J in the black color. Oh, no! I don't want that. Oh, for Christ's sake. I'm spending way too much time on this. All right. Last go. Shapes. Square. Gone. Brushes. Colors. Black. McDonald's. There we go. Now, colors. Back to purple. We make basically a tier jump now. So the next tier, the way I see it, it's a pretty small tier. But I would say it's. Well, I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it because obviously, I wouldn't say even obviously, but I'd say it's kind of obvious. I would say that Christ, McGovern, but I was saying J, K, D, F, C is probably going to be there at number 10 with some great players. I mean, it's not like he's not scoring. That's 116 points. 800 there is more points than I'm scoring. And let's see what happened this last week. Real quick. Yeah, Taylor's back. And now Ford is going to be out for a little bit. So Chris landed himself at somehow the RB1 of Cleveland and Kareem Hunt. So hats off to Chris. But just a lot of planning for next year, I guess. And in here you have Elijah Mitchell probably can get dropped at some point. Even with this negative points, I would be holding Marvin Mims. I don't know what James Conner's contract situation is. I feel like he could be. I don't know. But I'm not going to really dive too much into that either. But DeMarcado could be, again, potential keeper. No keepers are locked in right now. But potential keeper. Nico Collins, honestly, could be a potential keeper. He got a great draft him, I think, in the 9th round this year. Dotson, that's just a tough player. Can't drop, can't trade, can't play. So maybe someone tries to I don't know, maybe someone tries to trade for, like Jonathan Taylor and throws in Dotson with him. So we'll see. It could be something like that. But in any case, it's pretty weak showing, especially from Jamison Williams. These target numbers are brutal. Just not a lot of targets, not a lot of involvement. Crazy that Dotson had the most targets, but it's not a team that I think, he's basically in sell mode. So that's where we are. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. I think after McGovern, when I look at the teams, I'd say, I think Jake just has good depth, and he's got a good. Eckler is just underperforming. He will be back, and I don't think Jake is in this tier. I really don't. But I think I would put probably my team here. So I'm going to do Kamish, and then there's the next spot. I'm not going to go into my team really. There's not a whole ton to go over. I guess I could, just for a second. Got a trade proposal, and this has been sitting here. But I'll let you guess who I was trying to trade for. But my team looks like a lot more like a next year type of team with some guys that I could trade away if I needed to. But there's a lot of rookies. It's a bunch of rookies. Their second year in Trey McBride. There's just not a lot of boom kind of guys. I mean, I would say that CD and Devontae are still the boom kind of guys, but Adams has been struggling. I think he'll be better when Jimmy G comes back, which is just a crazy thing to say. But yeah, so and CD Lamb, I think he's tough too. He should be doing a lot better than he is. He looks amazing out there when he plays. He's been pretty efficient for the most part. How many that's pretty efficient. That's very efficient. So some good players. Again, Stroud is more of a next year piece. He's doing awesome too, but just not a serious competitor. So I put myself in 9, and I don't remember if I had Jenny move to the next tier last week, but I like the starters. I hate the depth. There is no depth. You could say this is scary for Cup. It depends how this could be scary for Cup, right? I don't think Cup. This is going to be Cup every week, but I don't think Cup is going to be the CMC, the Christian McCaffrey that he was in the past, where it's like a guaranteed 25 points. That's just not really in the cards anymore. Between the injury, but also because Puka can do his job and is very, very, very good. So Cup is still a wide receiver 1, but not an elite wide receiver 1. I love Drake London. This is, again, just very solid players with absolutely no depth. There is no depth on this team. So I she could have explosive output, but during the bye weeks, if any one of these pieces that's out is going to bring the totals down. Like, I don't think she had anyone on bye last week, or 2 weeks ago rather. Oh, this is what? No, I don't want that. That doesn't matter. So I think this is more of a is this a tier change or not? I will probably put Jenny at number 8. I feel like I've moved hers around a lot, but I'm gonna move the tier. No, I'm not. I'm gonna do next year right here because the lack of depth and injuries are. Why did I do that? Why did I put a period there? And injuries are just so prevalent this year, and I'm expecting one of Cup, Kamara, Brees Hall, Mark Andrews to not to have a season-ending injury, but to get a multi-week injury at some point this year. And I think that'll be just a disaster. And even Herbert could too. Even though this output was pretty bad, her team would hurt a lot without him. So that's sort of how I view it. But I do think there's a change in tier, and I would put Jake right here. Jake's team has been really playing poorly the last couple weeks. And I don't need to go into it into any more depth, but just on the outside looking in is I think he's playoff caliber, but according to power rankings right now, I put him just on the outside just because there are just better teams ahead. There's some really, really good teams here. So we'll go into them a little bit more. Now we're jumping the next tier. We have the more fun teams, I'd say, to look at, here at the top. So I'd say what do we have? We have 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have 6 of them. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's easy. Boom, 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 boom. So we'll start. I think Elliott is still a clear-cut number 1 with Jamar Chase on bye, with McCaffrey playing at less than 100%, with Mostert having an off week. He still put up 133, which is a great total. But I think this is a tough one. This is really tough. I'm not gonna put anyone. I have to inspect all the teams first. But I'm gonna look at Morgan Ellie's team and see. We had some. He had some great. Another 2 touchdowns from ETN. That's what, 6 in 3 weeks. 2, 4. I mean that's not sustainable. Efficiency not good. And that's sort of what we've seen out of ETN, right? He's had some big bursts where he has some games where he has some long runs. And this was some of the concern and why there was hope for Tank Bigsby at the beginning of the season, was that ETN would have stretches where he was unable to be efficient with the ball. But, again, he has these games and he's dominating the backfield. There's, nothing but stellar points each and every week. But that's just, again, some concerns. The running back room, while deep, Brian Robinson getting a touchdown and still only putting up 8 points is a little nerve-wracking. Damian Pierce is having his workload cut into. And then that leaves Rashad White, who's always an efficiency concern, though that usage in the receiving game is great to bring that number up to 14. Gabe Davis is pretty boom or bust. He had been getting a number of touchdowns. But the last 2 weeks without getting the touchdowns has been pretty weak. Puka is an untouchable asset. Amazing, just amazing performance. Devontae Smith, a little bit nerve-wracking. These are some not great. This is a fine outing, but just like one double-digit outing in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks is a little nerve-wracking, with AJ Brown just being an absolute target hog and just he's backing up the targets. He's earning those targets. So that's just a little bit of weakness. But Mahomes putting up a great performance, and he's always liable to do that. And that's the thing. When Jefferson comes back, this is going to be what makes or breaks this team, is if he comes back, right? I wouldn't expect this team to be a contender. Or not, he'll be a contender, right? They're definitely a contender. but not, I'd say, a Kraken championship favorite without Jefferson playing. So that's something to consider. But again, over here, another week of top, definitely top third scoring for Zach's team. Kirk Cousins with 25 points, double digits all over the place. There's a 0 for Cole Kmet, and he's still putting up 140 up here. That's great. That's another good Seattle outing. As far as usage, you have Barkley, who's going to be heavily used until the wheels fall off. Swift, another heavily used running back. Stephon Diggs, this is basically a floor game for him. Pittman, he got a little bit lucky with that Pittman 75-yard touchdown at the end of the game. Especially in a high-scoring affair, it's a little concerning that he didn't have much involvement. Palmer, great fill-in, but he's got some depth on the bench with Thielen. Hubbard and Sanders are probably in a 50-50 split right now. So it's a solid team with okay depth, I'd say, but the players are they're elite players. So I love this team. I don't think it's the number 5 team. I think it's better. I'd prefer having his team over Morganelli's team at present. So we're just gonna go again, keeping with the teams remaining. Chris's team. This is a very odd week. A very, very odd week for Chris's team. That's 137 points. Great. It's a great total. But you have the distribution is painful. With Lamar putting up 40, Donta Foreman with 3 touchdowns. And who knows how much longer he'll be doing that. As long as he's doing that, as long as everyone else is injured, keep him in. But Hawkinson, Laporta, great 1-2 for tight ends. Aaron Jones' usage is a little concerning. Bijan's is not concerning because it was just a headache kind of thing. Chris got kind of screwed over with them not designating him with an injury until in the game and just not playing him. But this performance out of Lamar was much needed. Hopefully gives him a little bit of confidence there. This is a ceiling performance for Gus Edwards. A ceiling performance, I'd say, for Kareem Hunt getting 2 touchdowns. It's horrible efficiency, but he's the RB1 now. So I like Chris's team. I would not put him at number 5 right now. But I'd say let's keep going. I'd say, I guess. No, well, no, I'll hold off on that. But now we get to Nolan's team, which again, just the no stud receivers. But I mean, Christian Kirk has been playing with them. Christian Kirk might be the most disrespected receiver in fantasy football. Look at this. That week 1, you sort of get rid of that because it's the first week of the season. Every week, just consistent. This is Nolan's team in a nutshell. Just consistent performance. From Christian Kirk, Tyler Lockett. Well, okay, I know I said consistent. Tyler Lockett, other than last year, has never been a consistent guy. But Scary Terry, I'd say it doesn't look like it because you have the single digits to the double digits. But Scary Terry is, in my opinion, a consistent guy. And if Sam Howell gets benched, then I think Jacoby Brissett will know how to feed him the ball. But consistency with Ken Walker. Consistency Isaiah Pacheco. Consistency. I'm not going to say Dallas Goedert, but you have Derrick Henry, who's not consistent. Look, this team is consistent. I don't care what you guys say. It's a consistent team, and I like it. I like Nolan's team a lot. It's consistent. All right, consistent. But all right. So next, I don't know how Freaky keeps doing it. Honestly, I feel he just keeps pulling a rabbit out of the hat every single week. But Jacoby Myers, the new wide receiver 1, I guess, in Vegas. You want to talk about consistent? Just bam, bam, bam. As a Devontae Adams owner, it's annoying. It's very annoying. But Amon-Ra, Sun God, elite wide receiver 1. Jahmyr Gibbs finally is here. That's 10 targets. But so that's awesome for him if Monty stays out for a while. I mean, even with Monty in, honestly, this might be just sort of like his coming out game for Gibbs. And it could eat into Monty's workload when he comes back. But we don't know. It's Detroit. They can do anything. I think A.J. Dillon's probably his best game of the year. Wrong. That was week 5. But this was no touchdown. So I'd say arguably yardage. Yeah, like yardage, it's his best of the year. And it was probably his best performance of the year, especially with A.J. Dillon or with Aaron Jones back. To have that kind of usage and put up those yardage totals is really probably welcoming for Freaky. As is Waller getting basically 100 yards. Tyreek Hill, actually, I mean, Tyreek Hill's always fine, but that's surprisingly low. But just touchdowns, double digits on every player. I mean, that's great. That's 154 points. Another top 2 outing for Freaky's team this last week. So he's definitely not number 5. And then Elliott's team, I think, is still, right up there at the top when he gets, everyone healthy. And Kincaid, he has Kincaid, who's now going to be the TE1 because Dawson Knox has wrist surgery, is going to be out for a while. So that'll be really good for Elliott, who's benefited more than anybody else I think I've ever seen from injuries in fantasy football. So I'd say, with a not so heavy heart, I'm going to put Kraken combined tour there at number 6. Though I think it's a solid team. It's crazy that they're number 6. I really, that's kind of nuts to me. But yeah, I'd say then after that, how in the world do you rank these teams? Freaky's team is I am just nervous about this team. I'm not weeks go by and I just get nervous about Tony Pollard. And there's just a lack of a identity, I guess, at the running back position for this team. And Myers isn't going to keep it up. I really don't think Myers keeps it up. But any team that has Sun God and Tyreek Hill is always a threat. That said, I think it just feels more boom or bust than some of the other teams. So that's tough. That's really tough. I think from here I think I gotta put Freaky's team here. And Tony Gibson's Hitman Reborn, which then I would put Nolan's team right above here, James White Babies, and then at number 3, do I like Nolan's team or Chris's team? I kind of like Nolan's team better than Chris's team, if I'm being honest. So maybe I do a little switcheroo here. Chris's team definitely, it seemed like it was just an odd week, and I don't really know how to judge at the moment. But that point distribution will really kind of, I think that's a misleading 137. But we'll see. It's one of those I need more info to know for sure. So for now, Chris is at somehow still undefeated. But there are 1, 2, 3 teams that have scored more, and Morgan Ellie and Chris are basically tied there. But Chris has just had very few points scored against them. So is Jenny, but that's something different. And then you get up to the number, the top 2 teams. I got to put Zach here. K, and then I do think there's still. Actually, is there really a tier jump to Elliott anymore? I don't think Elliott's untouchable. Though it's easy to say when you have Jamar Chase sitting on the bench for a week, and then you have the unstoppable David Montgomery being injured, and Raheem Mostert. I think this is finally the beginning of the end of Raheem Mostert this year being just a godly force. But I think that's still a small tier jump but I do think he's just still the favorite in his own class at the moment. But the class is shrinking. I'd say the class is shrinking. So I'd say that is the rest of the teams. I know I didn't give Elliott's team a whole ton of discussion just because he's in his own tier. So I will take. This isn't a spin the wheel amount of time I'm going to spend on the team, but I do want to go through it a little bit. Jalen Hurts obviously gets a rushing touchdown every game, just like Christian McCaffrey does, and is a good passer. Lots of turnovers. That's definitely something that's being talked a lot about. But I think between having Jalen Hurts and trading away Tony Pollard for A.J. Brown is looking like a better and better trade every week. This is not just consistent, but this is elite wide receiver talent. So you have a top 3 quarterback. You have, I'd say you have probably 2 of the top. If there were 3, well, that's tough because let's just be a little safer and go top 5 wide receivers. He has at least 2 of the top 5 wide receivers in, you have Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, and probably Sun God. Maybe I could be missing somebody, but those are probably I'm definitely. You can yell at me, you can yell at me on Discord or whatever about that stand, but those just what come to mind. First 5 wide receivers I would want, and he has 2 of them. And the wide receiver was his weak spot at one point, and now it's a huge strength. If Raheem Mostert does come back and continues to dominate, along with Christian McCaffrey, who's automatic touchdowns every single week. It's like I don't remember how many touchdowns LaDainian Tomlinson got that one year. It was like 26, actually, I think is what it was. I feel like he's got to be close, right? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 through 7 weeks. So in 14 weeks, if he keeps his pace up, it's 22. Yeah, he's like basically on pace for that magical LaDainian Tomlinson year. So we'll see. We'll see. If he does keep it up, then that's absolutely bonkers to be able to have all this talent on one team. And the new TE1 of Buffalo in Kincaid, who had an amazing game. And JSN, who got a touchdown. And I think Pete Carroll said before this game that they're just ramping up JSN now. So look out. Elliott could have his guy. But we'll see about that. And then obviously Monty is Monty there. So that's why I think LA's team is number 1. And I think it's I wouldn't say it's not close because it is close, but it's also definitive. He's a definitive number 1 in the league. And he doesn't need to make any trades. Other teams can make trades to get to as good as him, but then he can make another trade and get back above them. So that's where his strength is. I think that about covers it for power rankings, though. I'm definitely getting thirsty. My throat's dry. And I actually have real life work to do. So I want to keep doing these, but Jocelyn is due in about 2 weeks now with our second kid. And it's going to be absolute mayhem here. So I'll try and keep doing these, but there might be a drop off. But in any case, I'll hopefully be seeing you guys next week. Doing this. So if you want to be a sponsor on the show, just let me know. So I've done Frugal Feynman's Vegan Furniture. I've done Modern Morganelli's Media Meats. Modern Man Morganelli's Media Meats. Sorry, Modern Man Morganelli's Media Meats for messing up your name there. But I'll be happy to plug another one. But in the meantime, you guys have a shitty week, shitty weekend in fantasy world, but good real life stuff. And I'll see you guys next week.